Hi from Japan. So it's been a while since I made a vlog about what's going on in life. So today I just wanted to make this video just to reflect on some major items that we've been processing in the news, especially the last week or so. So as you know, Queen Elizabeth II passed away last week. So she was the longest reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. So it was quite a shock, I think, for many people. I mean, obviously it was expected. She was 96 years old. But I guess, she just looked like she would just go on forever, right? We just celebrated the Jubilee, the Platinum Jubilee in June of this year, 2022. So giving thanks and celebrating the fact that the Queen had been on the throne for 70 years, since she was 25 years old. Which is an incredible feat. So yeah, I mean, I think as I've been watching, especially the BBC News, Channel 4 News from England, where you can really hear the sentiments of the British people, I think everybody has been saying the same thing. They were expecting it to happen. When it actually did, it was just so shocking and sad, and they cannot imagine life without the Queen. Because when you think of England, you think of the Queen. There's other things, of course, that are like British tea or whatever, Buckingham Palace, the Beatles, but the Queen has been this iconic symbol of the UK for so many years. For me personally, I moved to England when I was 9 years old from Kenya. Kenya was a colony of the British Empire. So there was that connection there. But since I was 9 years old, I grew up just, seeing the Queen on TV, the royal family. I spent about 20 years of my life in England. My university was very near Buckingham Palace. Two of the places that I worked in London, I could walk to Buckingham Palace. So it was, it was just part of life, So it would be so strange going back and the Queen isn't there anymore. I mean, she's not alive anymore. And, it can seem kind of strange grieving a person that you've never met. But I think for at least, the people who grew up knowing the Queen in terms of living in the UK and being part of, life there that involved seeing the royal family on the news, or, seeing the Queen at various events around London or other parts of the country. It is still very personal. It's a personal loss. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of, maybe my own kind of grief and loss, just speak it out and encourage people to do so. And because, yeah, I mean, she was a pretty significant person in our history. I am a British citizen as well. So I do feel that, yeah, she was just a big part of our life. And she kind of made, the UK what it was. She was like this steady figure whenever there was like chaos going on in politics. Of course she wasn't, she didn't have political power, but she would meet the prime ministers and throughout her reign to listen to what was going on and, give advice. Whether it was taken or not, I don't know, but she was certainly well versed in what was going on in her nation and around the world. And I think she brought so much experience and wisdom. She didn't fight, rather. She joined the war effort during World War II. She was a truck driver and a mechanic. She was like a roll up your sleeves kind of queen. She didn't just sit in the palace and drink tea while her people are suffering. So I just really admire that. I admire her Christian faith, which she expressed most clearly during her Christmas messages. So every December she gave this Christmas message, and she expressed quite clearly her faith in Jesus, and the fact that she drew wisdom about how to live her life from the teachings of Christ, from the Bible. So yeah, she'll be very missed. I mean, I think all of us can say, she was like for me, like my generation, like my grandma. My grandma is actually around the same age as the Queen. Or for maybe my parents' generation, she was like their mom, that kind of figure. I think what maybe the world saw on TV, of course, was quite different from who she really was as a person. So it's worth watching some of the documentaries that, especially the last week or so, have come out about her life. I think you can kind of get a better sense of the real Elizabeth II from some of those. So I'll link those to the bottom of this YouTube vlog. So there's a good one made by Sky News and Channel 4 News in the UK that I particularly appreciated. So yeah, just, with the rest of the world, just want to say thank you so much to our Queen for 70 years of service, so diligent, really a servant to her people. And even 3 days before she died, she was meeting the new Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss. You could see those pictures and the news from that Balmoral Castle, which is where she passed away in Scotland. So I mean, it's amazing. Like just 4 days before she died, she was still working away. So just such an inspiration, especially to women around the world. For me as a Kenyan, I really appreciate the fact that she really embraced the Commonwealth. She traveled a lot to Africa. She was a very good friend of Nelson Mandela. And actually the Queen found out about her father's death, King George VI, while she was in Kenya. So in 1952, she was actually on tour on behalf of her father, who couldn't do the tour himself because he was suffering from lung cancer. So she went instead of him, and then that's when he passed away in London, and then she was in Kenya, and she got the news that her dad had died, and she was the Queen. So yeah, that must have been a very huge moment, difficult in so many ways for her, but she just did it with such grace and just took on that responsibility from day one. So we're just so thankful for our Queen, and may she rest in peace and rise in glory. And then the next, of course, memorial we had recently, actually yesterday, Sunday, September 11th, was the remembering the 9/11 attacks in the US, New York City, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So there were 4 planes that crashed into these major places. Of course, 2 of them were the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, the North and South Tower of the World Trade Center. And 2 of those planes actually took off from Boston, which is my home now after moving from England. And I just will never forget that day, because I had just finished university in England, and I had moved back home to Boston, and I had got this job at a law firm. And it was the morning of 9/11, and I think our offices were, I think I was on the 15th floor. And my colleague, had turned on the news because she had got a text message from, I think, one of her relatives saying, turn on the TV because there's a plane that hit one of the towers in New York. So that's what she did, because she had a small TV, and then we just started watching this. It looked like a movie. It just didn't look real. This tower was on fire, and then a few minutes later, the next plane hit. And it was just unbelievable. So we actually all went out to one of the conference rooms on one of the lower floors, because a lot of our colleagues were gathering. The lawyers, even clients, were coming out from the conference rooms, and we were just glued to the TV. We just could not believe what we were seeing. And then the Pentagon was attacked, and then there was a 4th plane that we didn't know where it was gonna attack, but later we learned that that 4th plane, the passengers overpowered the hijackers, and it crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. But it was just horrific day. And some of my colleagues had friends and family in New York that they were trying to get hold of, but the phone lines were jammed. I mean, just things were chaos. And then I think it was around 11 maybe, we got a PA announcement from our building that we were going to be getting evacuated and to basically get our belongings together. And then I think around 11:30, the National Guard came in all their uniform. The police came with guns. I mean, it was just, again, it was like, am I in a movie? What's going on? So, and that's what happened. Basically, we were led outside. It was very kind of done very orderly, but it was just, people were just in shock. So nobody spoke. And then I guess the people who had cars were escorted to the garage, and then the rest of us who travel by public transport were escorted to the station, literally escorted. You are not walking anywhere by yourself. So yeah, the nearest station to my office was is called Government Center. So that's where we were taken, and then I just got on the train and took the 35-minute Green Line trolley home, and nobody spoke. It was just so quiet, so surreal. And of course, the North American airspace had shut down the first time in history. So no planes were flying. Flights that were coming to the United States were diverted to Canada. And I think for several days after that, this airspace was shut. And actually, a few days after that, when I went back to the office, all we could hear, the only planes we could hear were the fighter jets. There was literally fighter jets flying every day, above us. So those are the only flights that could fly. So it was just unbelievable experience. But I can't, fathom what it must have been like for those families who lost loved ones in the towers, in the Pentagon, and then, United Flight 93 that crashed in Pennsylvania. Because I think that particular flight, that last flight had longer, because I think it was delayed taking off from New Jersey. So the passengers on board that final flight that crashed in Pennsylvania had actually access to news. So they actually knew what was going on, and that they were, they had been hijacked, and that, so they were making, the final phone calls to loved ones, and making plans basically to overpower the hijackers in the cockpit. There was actually a movie made of that, United Flight 93, really brave people. So we thank them as well. And all the firefighters who ran right into danger in the towers, and so many of them lost their lives in New York. So it's just so thankful, for, I think when we remember that day, I think, for me, I just remember just all those people who gave their lives, in the face of, they didn't know what they were running into, but they just did it because that was their job. So yesterday was a day to remember that, and every year, of course, having experienced, I guess a little bit of that in Boston, it's always a time to pause and reflect, and pray for those people, and give thanks as well, and realize, we're living, we live in times that where things are just upside down, and unless we have a solid foundation to stand on, it will be difficult to make sense of any of this. Of course, it doesn't make sense why, humans want to kill each other. But I think, as a Christian, the Bible does explain a lot of those things. It does give some answers, and it does give hope for what's gonna be coming in the future. So so anyway, just this video is just to kind of reflect and kind of pause, and sort of think out loud, these two things that happened this week, or this past week. So the Queen's passing away in Scotland, Elizabeth II, and yesterday the 9/11 anniversary, this 21st year anniversary. So that's all I wanted to say for now. So I hope wherever you are, whatever you're going through, know that you're not alone. And I always find a lot of comfort in, especially the Psalms in the Bible, the songs, kind of grappling with a lot of these emotions that come from these trials and pain, and just, horror at, some of the things that life throws at us. And these were written by, the second king of Israel, King David. So if you have a chance to read some of these Psalms, one of my favorites is Psalm 46. And I'll leave that in this, the link to this video. So God bless you wherever you are. Take care. And until next time, bye from Japan.